The movie opens with a disturbing scene where we see a disfigured human-like creature eating another person. After this horrifying moment, the scene cuts to a woman named Megan, who has just arrived at her parents' house. Earlier, Megan was living away from home due to her job. As soon as she steps outside the house, she becomes extremely frustrated and starts screaming. Megan is clearly overwhelmed and emotionally broken, and the reason behind this is her father. Megan's father, Robert, is suffering from cancer and is now in the final stage of his life. Megan has returned home specifically to take care of him because her mother, Barbara, cannot manage everything on her own. Megan enters the house and meets her mother, Barbara. She then goes into her father's room and notices that water has spilled all over the floor. As Megan starts cleaning it, she suddenly finds a small pouch under the bed. When she opens it, she is shocked to discover human teeth inside. Yes, actual human teeth. Megan is left completely stunned by this discovery. It is later revealed that Barbara herself placed the teeth there. Barbara has started believing in witchcraft and occult practices, and the teeth were part of a ritual. She believed that performing this ritual would help her husband recover faster. Megan is now beside her father when Robert suddenly begins screaming in pain, repeatedly calling out Barbara's name. Megan rushes to bring her mother into the room. At this moment, Megan feels a deep sense of guilt for not coming back sooner, as her father has been sick for a long time. Barbara then gives Robert a dose of morphine to ease his pain. While this is happening, Megan confronts her mother about the pouch of teeth. Barbara explains that her friend Deb told her about all of this. Deb is Barbara's close friend, and Barbara has now fully fallen under her influence. In other words, Barbara has started believing in voodoo and dark rituals. Megan tries to stop her, warning her that this is wrong, but Barbara gets defensive and tells Megan to leave the room. Megan does exactly that. The scene then shifts to when a nurse arrives at their house. The nurse begins administering morphine to Robert, but we notice that she is giving him a higher dose. Barbara immediately stops her and insists that Robert should not be given so much morphine, claiming that he doesn't like it. The nurse responds by saying that this is the exact dosage recommended by the doctor. This is where we realize that Barbara has been intentionally underdosing her husband, which is extremely dangerous. Later, the nurse privately warns Megan that Robert must receive the full prescribed dose, otherwise his condition will worsen rapidly. After this, we see Barbara sitting alone, pulling out her own hair in distress, ripping it from her scalp. This behavior resembles a psychological condition. Some of you might recall a similar scene from The Boys Season 2, where Ashley Barrett compulsively pulls out her hair due to stress. Next, Megan approaches her mother to ask for some money. The reason is a free scholarship program that Megan and her father had created for children. Megan wants to continue it, but Barbara flatly refuses, saying they don't have enough money because everything is being spent on medical treatment. Megan argues that insurance should be covering most of the expenses, but Barbara still refuses. Megan then notices that her mother looks mentally and physically exhausted. Concerned, she suggests that Barbara step outside for some fresh air and take a short break. Barbara initially refuses because she is extremely protective of Robert and fears something might happen to him. Megan assures her that she will call immediately if anything goes wrong. After persistent convincing, Barbara finally agrees and leaves. However, we soon see that Barbara doesn't actually go anywhere. She simply sits alone inside her car. We then notice that Barbara has braided her own hair, which is significant because it will later be used in black magic rituals. She also ties her wedding ring into the braid, strengthening the ritual's symbolic power. At the same time, Megan hears strange noises coming from upstairs, heavy footsteps, as if someone is walking around. She presses her ear against the wall to listen more closely, and the sounds grow louder and more aggressive. But before she can investigate further, Robert once again begins screaming in pain, calling for Barbara. Megan rushes back to help him. At this point, according to the medication schedule, Robert should be receiving his next dose. It was time to give Robert his scheduled morphine dose, but instead of calling Barbara, Megan decides to administer the dose herself. As soon as she gives him the morphine, Robert finally calms down. After this, Megan falls asleep and sees a dream in which we witness her childhood memories with her father. In the dream, young Megan is with Robert near a dead bird. Megan asks her father if he can fix the bird and make it alive again. Robert gently explains that dead things cannot come back to life. Megan, now frightened, asks if humans also die. Robert replies yes. Megan then asks if she and her mother will also disappear one day. Robert calmly tells her that this is a normal part of life, but if she keeps the memory of a person alive in her heart, then they will always remain with her. While this conversation is happening, an older version of Robert suddenly runs toward them from behind. Megan wakes up from the dream and sees her father standing in front of the mirror. Shocked, she tries to calm him down. Robert tells her that he can see them, but Megan gently makes him lie back down on the bed. Later, Megan goes to wash her face, and at that moment, Barbara enters the room. This is when Megan realizes that Barbara has also given Robert a morphine dose. This creates a serious problem. Robert has now received an overdose, which could kill him. Unfortunately, at this point, there is nothing Megan or Barbara can do. That entire night, both Megan and Barbara stay beside Robert. During the night, Megan hears strange noises. Barbara dismisses them, saying that they are just rats. However, it becomes clear that these sounds are not from rats. They are strange, unsettling, and unnatural. The next morning, Megan wakes up and finds Robert dead. His eyes and mouth are wide open, frozen in an expression that makes it seem like he died in extreme fear. Megan and Barbara first close Robert's eyes and mouth. Megan then breaks down and starts crying, but Barbara appears emotionally detached, as if Robert's death has barely affected her. Later, we see Megan sitting outside in grief, smoking a cigarette. Inside the house, Barbara is talking to someone on the phone, informing them about Robert's death. When Megan walks back inside, Barbara immediately goes into another room and locks the door. After the call ends, Barbara opens the door, and Megan questions her, asking why she ran away and who she was speaking to. Barbara refuses to answer. Instead, she says something extremely disturbing. They need to prevent Robert's body from decomposing because it will be important tomorrow. Megan is completely confused and disturbed by her mother's behavior. She tries to question her further, but Barbara refuses to explain anything. Megan finally pushes her mother for answers, and Barbara is forced to reveal the truth. She explains that she has called someone, a person recommended by Deb, who is capable of bringing Robert back to life. Hearing this, Megan is horrified. She cannot believe that her mother trusts something so irrational and dangerous. But Barbara refuses to listen to her daughter. At this point, Megan realizes that she cannot stop her mother anymore. Megan steps outside and sits alone, overwhelmed by stress. Her father has just died, and now her mother is talking about resurrection rituals. Under this immense emotional pressure, Megan begins to hallucinate her father. In the hallucination, Robert tells her that she should support her mother. Who knows? Maybe this ritual could actually work. Hearing this, Megan finally gives in. She goes back to her mother and asks her where they should begin. Barbara explains that the first step is to gather Robert's personal belongings and memories and burn them. According to the ritual, destroying his memories will allow Robert to return. After that, all mirrors must be covered with cloth, and the entire room must be emptied. At this moment, Megan receives a message from Lacey, her best friend. Megan had earlier told Lacey about her mother's strange behavior, so Lacey is now checking on her. Megan, however, ignores the message and doesn't reply. Everything they are doing now is part of the ritual described by Deb. Suddenly, Megan sees two eyes inside a mirror, which terrifies her. She tries to ignore it, but soon she starts seeing many eyes, as if something from another world is watching them. After this, Megan and Barbara begin burning Robert's belongings. Among them is a photograph of Megan and Robert together. Megan hesitates. She does not want to burn it, but her mother insists. It is a necessary part of the ritual, so the photo is burned as well. After all the preparations are complete, Megan starts feeling that everything they are doing is wrong. She tries to stop her mother, but Barbara refuses to back down. The argument between them escalates. Barbara accuses Megan of abandoning them and claims that Megan never cared. She tells her not to pretend now. Megan fires back, saying she left because Barbara was overly controlling, constantly restricting her and criticizing every small thing. The argument grows more intense as both of them continue blaming each other. They are still arguing when the doorbell suddenly rings. When they open the door, they see a strange man standing outside. This is the same man who is supposed to bring Robert back to this world, the one Deb had recommended. The man enters the house and Barbara introduces him to her daughter Megan. However, his behavior is immediately unsettling. He starts sniffing Megan in a strange way, then examines Barbara as well. After this inspection, he announces that he is ready to begin the ritual. Barbara takes him to the empty room they had prepared earlier. The man sits down, and Barbara hands him a bag, which Megan watches carefully. Megan and Barbara remove Robert's clothes and Barbara cleans his body. After that, Barbara ties the braid of her own cut hair with her wedding ring attached around Robert's neck. She then brings the ashes that were created by burning Robert's belongings. The man draws a circle on the floor and instructs them to place Robert's body inside the circle, which they do. When the bag is opened, a huge amount of cash spills out. Megan is shocked by this. She pulls her mother aside and asks where all this money came from. Barbara reveals that she gave him all the money for the ritual, her entire lifetime savings. This revelation completely shakes Megan. Earlier, when Megan had asked her mother for money, Barbara had refused, claiming that everything was being spent on treatment and medicines. But now the truth is clear. All that money was meant for this ritual, to bring Robert back to life. Megan tries to stop her mother, calling it a scam and begging her to take the money back. But Barbara refuses. She says it's too late to turn back now. Barbara tells Megan that she is free to leave and that she will complete the ritual alone. She says she doesn't need Megan's help. Megan starts walking away, but then she sees her father again, appearing to her. Robert tells Megan that she must stay and support her mother because Barbara has only one daughter, and Megan should not leave her alone with that man. Because of this, Megan returns to the room. Now she notices that the bag of money is gone. The man has burned the money and used its ashes to create the protective boundary circle. Barbara explains that once they step inside the circle and the ritual begins, they must not step outside it under any circumstances. At this point, we learn that the ritual involves 3 surrenders, which is why the movie is titled Surrender. The first surrender is emotional detachment, burning Robert's belongings, which they were emotionally attached to. The rest of the surrenders will be revealed as the ritual continues. The man pulls out a knife and tells them to cry because he needs their emotional release as part of the first surrender. Barbara begins crying, and the man collects her tears. Megan, however, is unable to cry. To trigger her emotions, the man forces Megan to relive a childhood memory, a moment where Robert strongly opposed Megan's dance classes, leading to a serious argument between Robert and Barbara. Remembering this finally breaks Megan, and she starts crying. The man collects her tears as well. Now comes the second surrender. The man feeds both Barbara and Megan something. After eating it, Megan can no longer feel her legs. Right in front of Megan, the man cuts off Barbara's finger. This is the second surrender, sacrificing a part of the body. After cutting Barbara's finger, he moves toward Megan. Megan resists, not wanting her finger cut, but the man does it anyway. Next, Barbara and Megan hold hands and begin chanting. As they chant, something suddenly goes wrong and both of them lose consciousness. When they wake up, they find themselves in complete darkness. They have entered another realm, another dimension, something like a void. From inside this void, they can see the man was outside the circle, and Robert's body is now missing. Suddenly, the man's jaw is ripped apart, and before he can react, something drags him into the darkness. Megan and Barbara are terrified. The ritual has failed, and the reason is Megan. Megan had secretly not burned the photograph of her and Robert. This means they never fully disconnected emotionally, and because of that, they are now trapped. Realizing their mistake, they burn the photograph immediately. After that, they begin searching for Robert's spirit. Megan briefly sees a glimpse of Robert, possibly his spirit, but it disappears. Meanwhile, Robert's body reappears, but something else has entered it. The body is now being controlled by a demonic entity, and it is seen devouring the ritual man's corpse. In simple terms, because the ritual was incomplete, instead of Robert's spirit returning, a demon has taken over his body. Demons are always looking for a physical vessel, and this mistake gave one exactly what it needed. Barbara calls out to Robert, and he appears in front of her, but it is no longer her husband. It is the demon inside him. To draw him closer, Barbara cuts her own hand, but he still doesn't respond. The moment Barbara steps outside the circle, the demon drags her into the darkness. Now Megan is completely helpless. She must save her mother, and at the same time, a part of her still wants to bring her father back. Inside this dark world, Megan begins seeing many other trapped souls, all victims of failed rituals. Megan now sees many figures around her. These are spirits and demons, trapped within the void. She begs them for help, but it is completely useless. None of them respond. Realizing there is no other option left, Megan attempts the third surrender. She begins cutting her own finger, believing this sacrifice might finally work. But even this changes nothing. At that moment, Megan notices something unusual on the surface. A fragment breaks away, revealing a path, and she realizes it leads back to her house. Megan follows it and returns to the real world, but as soon as she steps outside, she sees something strange. Her father is standing there. This scene is exactly the same moment from her childhood, when her father explained death to her. Megan realizes she has gone back in time. She tries to talk to her father, but she cannot interact with him. She then goes inside the house and sees both her parents together. At that moment, Megan understands that she cannot escape by staying here. This place is only a memory, not a way out. She returns through the same path and goes back into the spirit world, the void. There, her. She sees her mother, but now Barbara is in a demonic form. Megan wipes away the ashes of the protective circle and confronts her mother directly. She tells her that she was selfish and mentally unstable, but despite everything, she still loves her. After saying this, Megan says goodbye to her mother. Suddenly, a powerful white light appears, and boom, this is where the movie ends. This movie highlights how every family member is burdened with misunderstandings, emotional pain, and unresolved guilt. Megan was always close to her father but distant from her mother, Barbara. She felt controlled and criticized, which pushed her to leave home. Deep down, she also carried regret for not returning sooner while her father was still alive. Barbara, however, was deeply misunderstood. She loved her husband and daughter intensely, and even the ritual was her desperate attempt to save her family. At the same time, she resented Megan for leaving without understanding her suffering. The ritual failed because true emotional detachment was required. Megan couldn't burn the photograph of her father, and that single attachment caused everything to collapse. Instead of Robert's soul returning, a demon possessed his body, killed the ritual performer, and dragged Barbara into the void. Barbara's fate reflects her inability to let go. Her guilt and obsession consumed her, showing that demons don't reward sacrifice.